Hi, Selwyn. So there are a couple of items that I wanted to show you here. In the list corrupted by static image, this is the UX that I'm sending you. And what you'll see is that if I have a UX control and I have added a static image field, this one right here, what seems to happen is, or what appears to have happened is that at that stage, the XBasic for the underlying component has an error in it, and you can see that in one of two ways. I can either try to duplicate the control, and you'll see that I get an error message here, and that was the first clue that I had. The second thing I can do is I can go to the XBasic, and what I did was actually copied the XBasic into an XBasic function from here, and then ran the syntax checker on it and discovered that the problem is components that begin, or properties that begin with .f.d. So it's this .f that seems to be causing the problem, and at that stage the component is corrupt, so I have to go in and physically remove the .f in front of each of those items, and then I have to look for the next one, and that's it. So that's all that we have. So that, and if I do that, then you'll see if I come back to the working preview, or not, sorry, I didn't mean to go to the working preview. By the way, the working preview works. The list actually will run. It's simply that the component is corrupt when you try to duplicate it or do anything in a new situation, like with another component. So if I were to now try to duplicate the control, you'll see that I am able to duplicate it without any problem. So that is the first issue. The second issue is a little bit more of a serious issue in terms of components that we already have in place. And that has to do with when you have a sub-UX that is called with a argument value, and that argument value is then used to populate a list control as a parameterized SQL query. So I'm going to show you the subcomponent first and show you how I have it configured. And what I've done is I've actually created two lists on here, and this will show you where the problem lies. Both lists are identical. I actually took the first list and duplicated it to the second list, and both call a SQL statement, which is parameterized with a single argument. The only difference between the two lists is this property right here, the delay render till visible. Somehow, since from 7636, where this was working, to where we are now, I am running today's build. Somehow that is now breaking parameterized queries. So this component gets called with a customer ID and then populates the customer ID. So I'm just going to show you what happens here if I run this now. What I've done is I've created a master component, and the master component just has a single list on it, which is just the customers from the Northwind database. And if I double click that, then I am doing a call to open that second component that I just showed you, and with that second component I am sending it through argument bindings. I'm sending it the arg customer ID. And that should take care of the issue. So what you're going to see though is two issues that I'm not sure what's happening. The first is that the initial list will not populate properly because it is a delay till render. The second list will work perfectly. There is also a text box on here that should have been filled in, because I have in the arguments, I have specified that that text box does gain a value. Let me see, here are arguments, sorry. In the arguments you can see that I've specified that that text box should be filled in, and it ends up not being filled in either, and the component ends up dirty at that stage after I open it. So let me just go ahead and open this and show you, and then you can follow through with this. I'm going to send you these components, obviously. So if I go to working preview, and then if I just double click on any one of these, it's going to open the subcomponent, and you can see that the render delayed until visible does not fill in the one that does not have that check does indeed fill in properly with all of the information, and the customer ID is not filled in, even though it should have been picked up from the argument value. So that is the other issue that we have, and this was more of a serious issue because it broke several of our components where we were using delay render till visible. The only way we were able to figure out how to fix it was simply to go in and turn that feature off in all those components and then republish them, and that took us about a day to figure all that out. So that's what we have thus far, and also you can see that as I try to exit now, for some reason it's also making the component dirty, even though I've not done anything except just open the component. So I had to add a reset button just so I could get out. So there you have it. I'll leave that with you, and I know you'll take care of these things, and I appreciate it. Thanks, Selwyn.